everyone, I'm Mary with Mary Greeley News. Thank you for joining me here on Rumble. I'm going to talk about a recent incident where a soldier was found to have a 14-year-old girl in his barracks on base. The barracks on Camp Pendleton are nothing like what we've seen in the movie. They got their own private room. This room here has got 2 beds, 2 cupboards. It looks more like an apartment complex. Here on Google Earth is the main entrance to Camp Pendleton. No one can get on the base without proper papers, without authorization, without going through a background check. Yeah, there's over 40,000 soldiers on active duty there at all times. When you go into the building where these barracks are at, you have to check in at the CQ, it says, and will be required to leave one valid form of identification, such as a state ID, driver's license, upon signing in as a visitor. They have nightly inspections to make sure all the visitors have left. Here on Google it says unescorted visitors must be sponsored or on an official business. Visitors must have their identity proofed and vetted. You gotta have a background check and be issued by an appropriate DBID credit pass at no cost. Visitors must obtain a DBIDS credit pass at Camp Pendleton Visitor Center before they are allowed to even enter the property. This soldier being apprehended was not arrested. He is still on active duty. Supposedly he bought her as a sex slave from somebody else. Supposedly, according to the logbook from Camp Pendleton, the state's military personnel found a 13-year-old girl in the barracks on June 28th. He is a Marine, a Combat Logistic Battalion 5 personnel. Like I said, he is still on active duty and is assigned to the battalion stationed at Camp Pendleton. According to her grandmother, she was last seen on June 9th and reported by her grandmother on June 13th. This is evidently a very troubled child. She had run away in the past but always went back home. Possibly a very rebellious child. According to the aunt, the security looked her niece right in the face and allowed this man to bring the minor onto the base. And according to the aunt, they're now trying to shift the blame to the 14-year-old girl. Like I said, he still has not been charged. This is not the first time that Camp Pendleton has been involved in sex trafficking. Back in 2019, there was 13 U.S. Marines who were part of a mass arrest there at Camp Pendleton. Instead of being charged, they all agreed to be kicked out of service instead of facing court-martial or administrative review. The JAG court, I guess it would be called, said that in a hearing in November, the judge ruled that the mass arrest constituted an unlawful command influence, which refers to military leaders abusing their position to influence legal proceedings. They wanted to make an example of these 13 people who were involved in sex trafficking, and they said that this embarrassment was why they decided to basically cover it up and just kick them out of the service. These 13 officers were only discovered because 2 other officers, or soldiers I should say, working the border were charging $8,000 to bring illegal people into our country. They were charging them $8,000 a head, and probably the younger ones they were putting into sex trafficking. Besides human trafficking, they were also found guilty or charged, I can't say guilty, they were never found guilty, of drug distribution, weapon charges, and who knows what else. The first 2 that were arrested were 2 lance corporals. This was after Custom and Border Protection agents saw them at a nearby resort community at Hukumba Hot Springs, picking up people suspected of entering the country illegally. The 2 Marines were charged with trying to smuggle 3 people across the U.S.-Mexico border, which is considered a federal crime. According to the immigrants who were found in their vehicle, they had paid the servicemen thousands of dollars to bring them safely to Los Angeles and across the country. The arrest also implicated 24 other Marines who were arrested at Camp Pendleton. 12 of the Marines were hailed from the 1st Battalion, 5th Marines, and one was assigned to the 5th Battalion, 1st Marines. The current commanding general there at Camp Pendleton is Brigadier General Jason G. Woodworth, and I believe he was in charge of Camp Pendleton back when these other people were charged with human trafficking. I could be wrong because it says here he was in different operations of deployment in the Middle East, and he was Air Station CO from 2015 to 2018 at Miramar. I believe that is in Florida. So my thought is, if the poo hits the fan here in the United States, would you trust these guys not to go rogue and form their own little group of soldiers to come in and take what they want? A whole battalion in Afghanistan, maybe, I forget where it was at, was sent home because of the same lewd behavior. A whole battalion. You know, one whole battalion doesn't make the entire military Marines bad. But you really have to wonder when the poo hits the fan, yeah, is this another possibility of things that we have to worry about? Here in my apartment building, many years ago, there was a reservist, an Army reservist. And the guy was a nut. He used to steal anything that I left for decorations out in the hallway. He went out to ranches and stole people's dogs. I imagine they were probably some kind of fancy breed. He stole my weather station. That's how I caught him. It was a thing I had on the wall that would transmit the outside temperature into my house if it was raining or whatever. And he stole that. And being a dumbass, didn't think that it was radio frequency, so I could just take my base station and track to where it was at. So I called the police. The police came out. He admitted he had it. He gave it back to him. He said he found it laying on the ground outside my apartment door. Right. But just because they're a person of authority doesn't mean it's someone you should trust. So how many people is in a battalion? A military unit typically consists of 300 to 1,000 soldiers. They were sent home for trafficking, drinking, all kinds of really bad stuff. The entire battalion. And then we got these other ones that they just gave them the chance to drop out of the military without charges being filed. Human trafficking. And just think of the equipment and the weapons that they have access to. This is something I have never thought about. Have you thought about this? When the poo hits the fan, not only are you going to have to worry about the gangbangers. Yeah, they're survivalists. They know how to survive, all the gang members. But are we going to have to worry about rogue military units? Yeah, come into your home and take all your prepper supplies, saying that it's an order from the military? How do you know for sure? Will they be stopping trucks that are delivering food for the needy and saying it's for them? Yeah, just another reason why I would not want to ever go to a FEMA camp. How many individual Marines, how many individual soldiers already have planned when the poo hits the fan that they're going to band together and do things like that? What would you think if you saw a group of soldiers coming into a Walmart or a grocery store and cleaning off the shelves? Would you have the nerve to question their authority? If they're already doing these unspeakable acts, now during a time of peace, what are they going to do when the poo hits the fan? What are your thoughts? Put your comments down below. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Please stay safe, and I'll talk to you later. God bless y'all. Bye.